Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. My name is Juan Londoño and today we're going to discuss the number one mistake that most landscape photographers and photographers in general make. If you're not familiar with my channel, find in the description the link to my website. There's also Instagram there if you want to check that out. But the link to my website, and then supply your email address, and I will send you a newsletter every once in a while. I'll send you some cool tips and tricks and things like that. If I ever see a good deal in photography, I'll send you that as well. Especially if I see a good deal. I love to send those out. So supply your email address and you get raffled in for a free photograph every month. See you there. So back to the topic at hand. This error, this mistake that I'm talking about, is something that we all do. And we do it without knowing that we're doing it. One type of mistake is a mistake we make and we go, oh crap, I did that. Well, this is one of those that you can go years without knowing that you're making. So what is it? We're going to look at a quote from Joe McNally. And the quote says, "Don't pack your camera until you've left the location." That seems pretty intuitive, right? Like, okay, there's no rocket science here. Don't pack your camera until you've left the location. Tell me if you've done this. So, when I lived in New York City, and not even when I lived there, but now that I go back and I go to other cities to photograph, I do street photography, sometimes I'm so focused on what I want to shoot. I want to shoot the Brooklyn Bridge. I want to shoot a canal. I want to shoot, right? A particular avenue. I get up in the morning, I get my gear ready if it's not already, prepared from the night before, and make sure I have everything, and I leave. And I take the bus or the train or the taxi or whatever it is. I get to the location, my gear comes out, the tripod comes out, all that stuff, right? I shoot for as long as I need to, and then I put it all away and I head home. And then when I get home, cool. I got the pictures I wanted, I go on the computer and I check them out. Unless you're shooting film, right? That's a whole other story. Well, the whole trip to the location and back was completely undocumented. Zero, zilch, nada. Now I think about it and it's frustrating. This particular quote seems to be aimed at photographers on location, right? Don't pack your bag until you leave the location. So that's the last thing you want to do in case something comes up. Maybe because it's extra work, right? You're putting everything away and, oh, we forgot to do this, right? You might be able to bring out one light, right? You haven't packed your backdrops yet, but you packed all your camera gear. Now you got to take all that out. So yes, intuitively, it makes sense to leave your camera just on the table, set up the way you've had it, bring everything down, and then if nothing else happens, put your camera away and head home. This is for on location photographers, right? You're in a studio somewhere, you're doing fashion, whatever it is, product photography. But it applies to all of us, right? I love landscapes, I love nature photography, and I've done this so many times. It's almost a joke because I still do it. And I ask myself, like, am I learning anything? Or am I just repeating mistakes over and over? Check this out. So I went to the gardens the other day and my camera was in my bag because I've been there many times and I'm looking for specific things at this point. And what I mean by that is I don't have anything in my mind, but what I mean by I'm looking for specific things is I'm looking for things I haven't shot before. So that's specific, but it's kind of not, right? So, because it's very vague, right? It could be anything. And then my camera comes out and I start shooting, right? And I know the place so well that I put my camera back in my bag so I don't have to hold it in my hand. And then I'm walking from one side of the park to the other. And of course, I'm going to see things. Of course, I'm going to see butterflies eating flowers and squirrels playing. And then sometimes it's too late. I don't have enough time to bring my camera out. I think this is what we mean by this quote, right? And we're going to look at it a little further. There are some pretty obvious points that we can make here. Let's talk about landscapes. Let's talk about mountains, for example. You and I, we meet up someday, right? We're traveling, and I'm traveling to your city. I reach out to you because you've been pinging me on Instagram, and you know, and I have people that I've met on Instagram that I can do this with, right? I can travel to where they are, right? Jonathan in Canada, my friend Fakad in New York. I can ping a few people and say, hey, I'm going to be there. Let's go. Let's go into the mountains. Let's shoot, right? So we head into the mountains, and we're trekking, and we're trekking, and we're trekking. We're making sure that everything's safe. It's in our backpack. We get to the location. We get to the top of the mountain. We're like, wow, this is beautiful. We shoot that for a while. Then we put the camera back in the bag, and we trek back down to the car. Well, you miss a ton of stuff. At that point, your mind is not on photography anymore. So what happens is you're not really paying attention to things, and you're missing things without knowing, right? Because on the way down, we're chatting. If I'm alone, I don't have to be chatting with myself. I can just be thinking, right? Where am I going to shoot next? What am I going to do tomorrow? Am I going to get a chance to download these today? I wonder if I got anything good, blah, 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 right? The same 1 million thoughts that, I think it's 60,000 to be exact, thoughts that we think every day that are the same thing we think every other day, right? So that happens. If on the other hand, we say, okay, we're done here, let's keep the camera ready and let's walk down and notify me if you see anything, and I'll notify you if I see anything, right? And each of us can be looking another way, and if I'm alone, then of course, or you're alone, you're going to be looking everywhere, up and down. Don't forget to look up and down. We typically do this and we forget to look up and down. There's a lot of stuff we miss. And the same holds true for beaches. On the way to the beach, I've missed some really cool things, right? Now you're getting into people photography. Some of the restaurants on the beach, when the sun is going down or when the sun is coming up, they're either just opening or just closing, or they're, you know, they're open and it's a bar and the lights outside are on and the sky's deep blue and you can get some beautiful pictures. But I'm not really thinking of that. I'm thinking of the sunset or the sunrise, and I'm running to set up my tripod and I miss everything that's going around, right? The couple holding hands walking, all that stuff that kind of falls into the street photography category, but is also beautiful. Now you might say to me, but Juan, this is not so black and white here. I've gone to cities and I don't know the city and I don't want to walk around and, you know, with my camera in my hand because it might get stolen. Well, there's a lot to that, right? I'm not going to go into the spiritual aspect of this where you're thinking it might get stolen, so it probably will be. Let's leave that out. That's a topic for like another channel. But I go into a city and I'm thinking I'm going to have a great time and I'm going to shoot everything and I'm going to get home safe, right? But let me show you something. This is a DSLR. Many of the full frame mirrorless cameras are this big, and the lenses are pretty big too. You walk around with this is intimidating, right? And people notice this for sure. You walk around with a Leica with its round little, you know, red logo. Some people are looking for that, right? Now you walk around with this little thing. This is a tiny little camera, which is what I use for street photography, okay? And I can take this little top thing off and it makes even less noise, right? Nobody notices. This band is like, you know, non-eventful. I put it around my shoulder. Nobody cares. It looks like an old film camera. They can see it's digital, right? It's got the digital display in the back. It's going to look like an old camera. If anybody strikes conversation, and this has happened to me in the subways, hey, what camera is that? I don't know what intentions they have. I just go, well, it's an old camera. It's a little, you know, mirrorless digital. I got it a while ago. Unfortunately, Canon doesn't make it anymore. It's, you know, not even a, you know, how do I word it, right? It just depends. Like, I go, it's not a camera anybody cares for, but it's the only thing I have right now, and it does the job. Well, they hear it and they're like, oh, it looks pretty cool, man. And they leave me alone, right? If I go, oh, it's the latest Leica M11, and that raises little, you know, antennas in a lot of places. Even if that crowd is not listening, there are other people listening. So you got to be careful, right? So it makes sense to understand where you're going and then shoot appropriately. I'm not going to take a big camera into the city. If I walk around with two cameras, because I want to do street photography, so I take this, right, inconspicuous little thing, and then I want to do some serious photography from, say, Jersey into New York, right, the skyline, or one of the bridges in New York, and I want like my 100 megapixel Fuji camera, that's in my bag, and it stays there, right? My small tripod is hanging from my bag, very, very small and discreet. So to people like that, I say, you gotta be careful where you are, you gotta know the location. You can't use the excuse, I'm in a city I don't know. No, you have to research before you get there, right? And yes, of course we can't research everything, but even when you're there, right, you meet a couple of people, say, hey, what's a good part of town that I don't have to worry about, my camera getting stolen, right? Or what's a nice place to shoot where there are other tourists around? Questions like that. There's another situation, which we haven't talked about, which is, I'm not going to use the word narrow-minded because it's not, right? It looks that way, right? Oh, I'm only going to shoot the Brooklyn Bridge today. So my camera's going to stay in my bag the whole trip there, and then the whole trip back, I'm not going to, have my camera in my hand. It'll be in my bag. It's not narrow-sighted. If a person lives in the city and has been shooting for 10, 15 years in the city, and that day they decide, I don't feel like shooting on the subway, I don't feel like shooting on the streets, I don't feel like doing that. I have my mindset on the Brooklyn Bridge because I've never shot a sunrise and I want to be on that bridge for sunrise. I get it. Keep the camera in the back, right? Especially at that time. You're going to be traveling into the city at 5:30 in the morning. Keep your camera in your back, right? There's a lot of common sense there. So there are specific situations where this doesn't apply. This quote doesn't apply. But in general, for most of us, it does apply, right? So no matter where we are, it pays to have the camera handy. I have had my camera in a bag, in the car, and then I'm driving home and I look at the moon and I'm like, oh my God, I haven't seen a moon like this in ages. A couple of things have happened. One is I have to pull over, then I have to go in the trunk, I have to get my bag, blah, 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 instead of having it like in the glove compartment or, sitting next to me. The other one is, oh boy, I have a very simple street photography lens and I don't have a lens I can shoot this moon with. So, what do you carry, right? What makes sense? What's not so bulky? What's not dangerous to carry? There's a bunch of questions there. I've gotten, at this point, to a place, right, in my life where, okay, I'm going to a city to shoot. I know I'm going to do street photography, but my mind is completely open. My camera is always in my hand. A good example is I leave my brother's place in New York and I walk 30 minutes to get to the subway. And as I'm walking down the street, I have my camera in my hand. And I've shot flowers and butterflies and some interesting homes and, things like that. I get into the subway, I keep it in case there's something cool I can do, some, street photography. I get out, and like I said, it's a small little camera, right? It's hanging from my thing. Nobody pays attention to this, right? People have bigger, better cameras than this anyway. So the point is, I don't really have a specific topic, right? At that point, at the point I am now in, I am looking for just about anything that looks cool. And it could be a street photography, it could be a bridge, it can be, which is different, or architecture, right? I can walk past the cathedral and walk inside, shoot the entrance, shoot the interior. I don't have my mind on anything, and I have my mind on everything. You get that, right? Because if your mind is on one thing specifically, then it's on something, it's not on everything, right? So keep that in mind. And you might come to me and say, Juan, I'm a portrait photographer, right? I work in whatever town, in whatever city. I get to the location, I bring out the equipment, I start shooting, I pack it up, and I'm gone. Okay, that's your mindset. There's nothing wrong with that, right? I can't argue with that. It's your mindset. But check this out. How about if you were driving there, or you were taking a train, and you're shooting snapshots of you on the train, or you on the bus, or you in the whatever, airplane, or you in the cab, and then on the way walking from the train to the building where you're going, you shoot a couple of pictures, you shoot some pictures walking up the stairs, right? Now what you have is a story. Think about this, right? When you offer the pictures to your client, you have two choices. You show them only what you shot inside, on location with them, or you can show them the pictures you took on the way and then on the way back, right? You might even set up the tripod and shoot some pictures of you talking to the subject about what the next look is going to be, right? What the next hairstyle is going to be like, what the next makeup or, what the clothing and all that, or the pose or what they have in mind, right? Maybe you're showing them the pictures. Do they like what they see? What a cool album, digital album that's going to be if you can pick out 10 really strong pictures that don't even include the portraits that you took, right? And you got about 5 pictures of you getting there all the way to knocking on the door, your hand like knocking on the door, right? Or them, opening, whatever. Then you show, right, your 200 pictures, right? You make those available, of course. And then a couple of pictures of you flagging a cab and heading back home. Isn't that cool? So we have to start thinking that way, because remember, AI is here. Right? It's not around the corner, it's here, right? And AI does really cool things. And people do really cool things. And people are offering all kinds of innovative products, innovative printing practices, innovative scenery, right? And this is without AI. And then you throw AI on top of this into the mix, and people are doing some breathtaking work. So it helps to be a little creative. When you do a photo shoot, if they're coming to your studio, then maybe when you open the door, a picture of them, right? Stuff like that. And of course, get their permission, right? To shoot that stuff. It's gonna go for them anyway. You can ask permission to load it, right? So you can post a picture of a portrait you did at your studio with a person, and then you can post the next picture, if it's an Instagram, for example, or anywhere. The next picture could be them leaving, right? Or you shaking hands with them or something like that, right? So there's a little story behind the picture, not just a portrait. I'm guilty. I do tons and tons of portraits, and all I show is portraits. All I show is the street photography. And I'm gonna start maybe thinking about, me getting to the location and then the shot. Or the shot, because that's what draws attention, right? A beautiful flower, and then me positioning myself to take it, right? With a GoPro or something like that. So we all have to start thinking about these things and putting them into practice. No matter what type of photography we do, the question is valid. When do we put our camera away? It's a valid question. So I've presented so many points in previous videos of things to think about, things to ask yourself. Include this in your list, right? When you're leaving the house, it's not even of when to put the camera away, it's whether you should take the camera out way before you get to your location, right? And then later ask, when do I put the camera away? So it's actually two questions. And the decision is ultimately yours. The decision is ultimately mine. It's ours, right? There's no right or wrong. I just want you to remember that you do have a decision, and this question does exist. That's all I have for today. Quick and easy. Love you guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Just a small topic here, just to spark some gray matter, sparks in the gray matter area. Let me know in your comments what you think, what you thought. If you do some of this stuff, if you've thought about this in the past, please like and subscribe. It helps the channel go a long, long way. There's a link in the description for Buy Me a Coffee. Buy Me a Coffee is going to allow at some point for me to rent some equipment. If enough people buy me a coffee, I can pick up some money to start renting lenses and doing reviews, right? So that is my goal. I really, really want to get there. I have a bunch of stuff I want to start reviewing myself, but I moved a bunch of furniture around, and my YouTube room, as I call it, is not really ready. I have a table with an overhead camera, and I'm getting all this ready in a backdrop so I can start doing some serious lens reviews and camera reviews. So in the meantime, please stay tuned. Like I said, love you guys. I really do appreciate your time. It means a lot to me, and we will catch up in the next video. Ciao for now.